Taylor Singh stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Manhattan penthouse, a glass of whiskey in hand, surveying the city below like a conqueror admiring his kingdom. At 35, he had built an empire through ruthless business deals and an unshakable confidence that he could win at anything. Money, power, women, they all came easily to him. He was used to getting exactly what he wanted, when he wanted it. Tonight was no different. His penthouse was filled with New York's elite, celebrating another successful merger that had made Taylor even wealthier. The champagne flowed freely, and the laughter of beautiful women echoed through the marble halls. Taylor moved through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and admiring glances with equal indifference. "Taylor, my friend." A voice cut through the noise. Eric White, Taylor's oldest friend and fiercest rival, approached with a grin that Taylor recognized immediately. That grin meant trouble. Eric was one of the few people who could challenge Taylor without consequence. They had grown up together, competed in everything from college grades to business deals, and maintained a friendship built on mutual respect and constant competition. "Eric," Taylor acknowledged, raising his glass. "Enjoying the party?" "Always," Eric replied, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "But I've been thinking about something. You and I, we've competed in everything, haven't we? Business, sports, even women." Taylor smirked. "And I've won most of those competitions." "Most," Eric agreed with a laugh, "but I've got a challenge for you tonight. One I don't think you can win." The room seemed to quiet around them as other guests sensed the tension. Taylor set down his glass, his competitive instincts immediately engaged. "I'm listening." Eric leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that still carried to the nearby crowd. "I bet you couldn't marry a woman who doesn't fit your usual type, someone who wouldn't normally turn your head, and you'd have to stay married for 6 months. Taylor's eyebrows rose. "That's your challenge? Marriage? Not just any marriage," Eric continued, his grin widening. "A real marriage, living together, acting like a couple, no separate bedrooms, no running away when it gets difficult. 6 full months. And what do I get when I win?" Taylor asked, because he never considered the possibility of losing. Eric pulled out his phone and showed Taylor a number that made even the billionaire pause. $5 million, plus bragging rights for the rest of our lives. The crowd around them gasped. Taylor felt the familiar rush of competition flooding his veins. $5 million meant nothing to him financially, but the challenge, the game, the chance to prove once again that he could conquer anything, that meant everything. "And if I refuse?" Taylor asked, though he already knew his answer. "Then everyone here will know that Taylor King, the man who claims he can win at anything, was afraid of a simple marriage." Taylor laughed, a sound that carried both amusement and arrogance. "Afraid? I've never been afraid of anything in my life. You have yourself a deal, Eric. 6 months, I'll show you exactly how this game is played." Eric's grin turned calculating. "Perfect, because I already have someone in mind. Her name is Maya Brown." Days later, Taylor sat in an upscale cafe, waiting for his first meeting with Maya Brown. Eric had sent him a single photo and a brief description. Confident, independent, works as a social worker, not impressed by wealth. The photo showed a woman with warm brown eyes and a genuine smile, fuller-figured than the models Taylor usually dated. He had looked at the picture for exactly 5 seconds before putting his phone away. To him, this was just another business transaction, another deal to close. When Maya walked into the cafe, Taylor immediately noticed how she carried herself. There was no hesitation in her step, no self-consciousness about her size, no apparent desire to impress him. She wore a simple grey dress that suited her and her hair in bun. She spotted him immediately and walked over with purpose. "You must be Taylor King," Maya said, extending her hand before he could stand. "And you must be Maya Brown," Taylor replied, taking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Please, sit down." Maya settled into the chair across from him, her eyes studying his face with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. Most women looked at him with admiration or desire. Maya looked at him like she was reading a book she'd already heard the ending to. "Let's not waste time with pleasantries. Maya began, folding her hands on the table. I know about the bet. I know Eric challenged you to marry someone outside your type. I know you agreed because you can't resist a competition. And I know you expect this to be a simple 6-month arrangement where you throw money at me until I fall in line. Taylor sat back, genuinely surprised for the first time in years. Eric told you everything. Eric is more honest than you'd think, Maya replied with a slight smile. He thought I deserved to know the truth before meeting you. He also thought I'd refuse. But I didn't. Why? Taylor asked, his curiosity genuinely piqued. Maya's smile faded slightly, replaced by something Taylor couldn't quite identify. Sadness? Resignation? Let's just say I have my reasons. They're personal and they're mine. You don't need to know them to complete your bet. Fair enough, Taylor said, though he felt a strange frustration at her secrecy. He was used to understanding people, used to finding their weaknesses and motivations. Maya was already proving to be more complex than he'd anticipated. So you're willing to go through with this? 6 months of marriage? Under certain conditions, Maya said firmly. I want my own space within whatever home we share. I want to continue my work without interference. I want respect, even if I don't have your love. And when the 6 months are over, we walk away cleanly. No drama, no complications. Taylor considered her terms. They were reasonable, actually easier than he'd expected. Agreed. Anything else? Yes, Maya said, her eyes meeting his with that same intense gaze. Don't try to change me, Taylor. Don't try to make me into one of your usual women. I am who I am, and that's not going to change just because I'm wearing your ring. Something about the way she said it made Taylor pause. There was strength in her voice, but also a hint of vulnerability he couldn't quite place. I wouldn't dream of it, he said, though even as he spoke, he wondered if that was true. Their second meeting took place at Taylor's lawyer's office, where they signed the prenuptial agreement and marriage documents. It was cold and businesslike, exactly what Taylor preferred. Maya read every page carefully, asked intelligent questions, and signed with a steady hand. No tears, no second thoughts, no romantic delusions about what this was. We're getting married next week, Taylor informed her as they left the office. Small ceremony, just the legal requirements. I've already arranged everything. Of course you have, Maya replied, a hint of amusement in her voice. You're used to controlling every situation, aren't you? It's served me well so far, Taylor said, not bothering to hide his arrogance. Maya stopped walking and turned to face him. Taylor, let me tell you something. I'm not one of your business deals. I'm not a company you can acquire or a competitor you can crush. The next 6 months are going to teach you something you've never learned. And what's that? Taylor asked, crossing his arms. That some things can't be won, Maya said softly. Some things can only be earned. The wedding took place exactly 1 week later in a small courthouse ceremony. Taylor wore an expensive suit, Maya wore a simple white dress, and Eric served as their witness with a knowing smile that irritated Taylor more than he wanted to admit. The judge pronounced them husband and wife in less than 10 minutes. There was no kiss, no celebration, no joy. Just two people legally bound together by a bet and secrets. After the ceremony, Taylor drove Maya to his penthouse. She was quiet during the drive, staring out the window at the city passing by. Taylor found himself stealing glances at her, trying to understand what she was thinking. She remained an enigma, and that frustrated him. Welcome home, Taylor said as they entered the penthouse. The space was massive, decorated in sleek modern style with expensive art on the walls and designer furniture throughout. It was a testament to his success, his wealth, his power. Maya walked through the space slowly, taking it all in. Her expression remained neutral, unimpressed. It's very you, she finally said. Is that a compliment? Taylor asked. It's an observation, Maya replied. Where's my space? Taylor showed her to a bedroom suite on the opposite end of the penthouse from his own. It had its own bathroom, sitting area, and balcony overlooking the city. He had it decorated by an expensive designer filled with luxurious furniture and artwork he thought she'd appreciate. Maya stood in the doorway for a long moment before speaking. 6 months, Taylor. Not a day more. 6 months, he agreed. And so began their strange cohabitation. The first few weeks of marriage were a study in frustration for Taylor King. He had entered this arrangement with absolute confidence that he would maintain control, that Maya would eventually bend to his will like everyone else in his life. He was wrong. Maya refused everything he offered. When he presented her with expensive jewelry, she politely declined. When he suggested shopping at designer boutiques, she laughed and said her clothes suited her just fine. When he arranged for them to attend high society events, she often found excuses to stay home. She continued working at the community center where she'd been employed for years, leaving early each morning and returning in the evening with stories about the families she helped. "You don't have to work anymore," Taylor told her one morning over breakfast. "I have more than enough money to support us both." Maya looked up from her coffee, her eyes steady. "I don't work because I need money, Taylor. I work because it matters, because those families need someone who cares. Can you understand that?" "I understand that you're making this more difficult than it needs to be," Taylor replied, his frustration growing. "Good," Maya said simply, returning to her coffee. But Taylor began noticing things that troubled him. Maya would sometimes skip meals, claiming she wasn't hungry. She declined invitations to expensive restaurants, preferring to eat simple food at home. On several occasions, he found her sitting on her balcony in the evening, looking exhausted in a way that seemed deeper than just tiredness from work. One evening, Taylor came home early and heard Maya on the phone in her room. Her door was slightly ajar, and he paused in the hallway, knowing he shouldn't listen, but unable to stop himself. "I know, Mom." "I'm being careful," Maya was saying, her voice soft. "Yes, I'm taking my medications." "No, he doesn't know. There's no reason to tell him. It's only 6 months, and then everything goes back to normal." Taylor felt a chill run through him. Medications? What didn't he know? He wanted to burst into the room and demand answers, but something held him back. Maya had made it clear she valued her privacy, and despite his growing curiosity, he found himself respecting that boundary in a way he never had before. Their fights became more frequent and more intense. Taylor's attempts to control the situation met Maya's immovable resistance, and neither was willing to give ground. "Why won't you let me in?" Taylor demanded one night after Maya had refused another invitation to a business gala. "Why do you insist on keeping these walls between us?" "Because you wouldn't understand," Maya shot back, her eyes flashing with emotion. "You live in a world where everything can be bought, where every problem has a solution if you throw enough money at it. Some things aren't like that, Taylor. Some things just are." "Try me," Taylor said, his voice dropping to something almost pleading. "Maybe I'm not as shallow as you think." Maya studied his face for a long moment, and Taylor saw something in her eyes that looked like regret. "Maybe you're not," she said softly. "But that doesn't change anything." Despite the tension, Taylor found himself increasingly drawn to Maya. It wasn't physical attraction, though he was beginning to find her beautiful in ways that surprised him. It was something deeper, something that confused and frustrated him. She was intelligent, passionate about her work, quick-witted in their verbal sparring matches, and completely immune to his usual charms. She treated him like a person, not a bank account, and that was both refreshing and terrifying. He started paying closer attention to her daily routines. She woke early, always made her own simple breakfast, and disappeared into her room most evenings. She rarely asked him for anything, never seemed impressed by his wealth or status, and maintained her independence with quiet determination. But the signs he'd noticed before became more pronounced. Maya sometimes gripped the counter when she stood up too quickly. She occasionally took deep breaths like she was fighting dizziness. Once, he saw her wince and press her hand to her chest, a flash of pain crossing her face before she composed herself. "Are you all right?" he'd asked that time. "Fine," she'd replied quickly, "just a muscle cramp." Taylor didn't believe her, but he didn't push. Not yet. 3 months into their arrangement, things came to a head at a charity gala Taylor insisted they attend together. It was important for his business image, he'd argued, and Maya had finally agreed. She wore a simple blue dress that she'd owned for years, refusing the designer gown Taylor had sent to her room. Her hair was pulled back elegantly, and despite his frustration with her stubbornness, Taylor found himself thinking she looked beautiful. The gala was held at a luxurious hotel filled with New York's wealthy elite. Taylor moved through the crowd with ease, introducing Maya as his wife, conducting business deals between champagne toasts. Maya stayed close but quiet, observing everything with those intelligent eyes. Then Taylor heard it, a cluster of women standing near the bar, their voices carrying across the room. "That's Taylor King's wife? I heard it was some kind of bet. She's so large. What could he possibly see in her? Money can't buy good taste yet, apparently." Their cruel laughter cut through the ambient noise. Taylor felt rage building in his chest, but before he could move, he realized Maya had heard them too. Her face remained composed, but he saw the flash of pain in her eyes, the slight tremble in her hand as she set down her champagne glass. "Excuse me," Maya said quietly, starting to walk away. Taylor grabbed her hand. "No, don't give them that satisfaction." He turned toward the group of women, his expression cold and furious. The entire room seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere, conversations dying as heads turned to watch. "Ladies," Taylor said, his voice cutting through the silence like ice, "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. Let me clarify something for everyone here." He pulled Maya closer, his arm wrapping around her waist protectively. "My wife is worth more than everyone in this room combined. She dedicates her life to helping people who actually need it, not throwing charity galas to make ourselves feel important. She has more integrity, intelligence, and genuine beauty than any of you could ever hope to possess. And anyone who has a problem with that can leave my presence immediately." The room was dead silent. The women who had been gossiping looked mortified. Maya stared up at Taylor, her eyes wide with surprise and something else, something that made his heart beat faster. "We're leaving," Taylor announced to the room. He took Maya's hand and led her out of the gala, ignoring the whispers and stares that followed them. Outside, under the night sky, Maya finally spoke. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," Taylor said firmly. "No one talks about my wife that way." "Your wife for 6 months," Maya reminded him, but her voice was softer than usual. Taylor looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something that terrified him. "Maybe I don't want it to be just 6 months anymore." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She quickly blinked away. "Don't say things you don't mean, Taylor." "I mean it," he insisted. "Maya, She pressed a finger to his lips. "Take me home, Taylor. Please." The ride back to the penthouse was silent, heavy with unspoken words. Taylor kept stealing glances at Maya, trying to understand the sadness he saw in her face. Something was wrong. Something beyond their arranged marriage, and he was determined to find out what it was. They had barely entered the penthouse when it happened. Maya took 3 steps into the living room and suddenly swayed, her hand reaching out for the wall, but finding nothing. Taylor lunged forward, catching her just as her legs gave out. "Maya!" His voice was sharp with panic. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow. "Maya, stay with me. Look at me." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Taylor, Don't talk, just breathe." He was already pulling out his phone, dialing emergency services with shaking hands. "I need an ambulance. Now, my wife collapsed. We're at the King Tower penthouse." The next 20 minutes were the longest of Taylor's life. He held Maya in his arms on the floor, terrified to move her, but equally terrified to let her go. She drifted in and out of consciousness, murmuring words he couldn't understand. When the paramedics arrived, they worked quickly, checking her vitals and loading her onto a stretcher. "I'm riding with her," Taylor insisted, following them into the ambulance. "Are you family?" one paramedic asked. "I'm her husband," Taylor said, and realized it was the first time he'd said those words and truly meant them. At the hospital, Taylor paced the waiting room like a caged animal. He called Eric, who arrived within 30 minutes. He tried calling Maya's mother, but couldn't find a number. He felt helpless, useless, terrified in a way he'd never experienced before. Finally, a doctor emerged. "Mr. King, I'm Dr. Grace Lee. I've been treating your wife. Is she all right?" "What happened?" Taylor demanded, immediately approaching her. Dr. Lee gestured to a quieter corner of the waiting room. Her expression was serious, professional, but tinged with sympathy. "Your wife is stable now, but we need to discuss her condition. Were you aware that Maya has been dealing with serious health complications?" Taylor felt the ground shift beneath him. What complications? Maya has severe hypertension and early-stage heart disease, complicated by her weight, Dr. Lee explained carefully. Her heart is under significant strain. The medications she's been taking help manage the symptoms, but her condition has been deteriorating. Deteriorating? Taylor's voice was barely a whisper. How long has this been going on? According to her medical records, she was diagnosed about 8 months ago, Dr. Lee said. The condition is manageable with lifestyle changes, weight loss, diet modification, regular exercise, and continued medication. But if left untreated, or if she continues her current lifestyle, the prognosis is concerning. Taylor felt like he'd been punched in the gut 8 months ago, before their marriage, before the bet. Suddenly, Maya's behavior made terrible, perfect sense. Her acceptance of the marriage, her insistence on limited time, her secretiveness, her sadness. "Can I see her?" Taylor asked, his voice breaking. "She's awake." Room 412. Taylor didn't remember walking to the elevator or down the hospital corridor. He only knew that when he pushed open the door to room 412 and saw Maya lying in the hospital bed, looking small and vulnerable in a way she never had before, something inside him shattered completely. "Hi," Maya said softly, attempting a weak smile. "I guess the secret's out." Taylor crossed the room and sank into the chair beside her bed. "Why didn't you tell me?" Maya looked away, tears sliding down her cheeks. What would have been the point? "You married me for a bet, Taylor. 6 months and done, remember? My health problems weren't part of the contract." "That's not—" Taylor started, then stopped, struggling to find words. "Maya, if I had known—" "You would have what?" Maya interrupted, her voice bitter. "Felt sorry for me. Treated me like I was fragile. I didn't want your pity, Taylor. I still don't." "It's not pity," Taylor insisted, reaching for her hand. She tried to pull away, but he held on firmly. "Maya, please. Tell me the truth, all of it." She was quiet for a long moment, staring at their joined hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was small and broken. "I was diagnosed 8 months ago. The doctors said that if I didn't make significant changes, I had maybe 5 years, maybe less. I tried, Taylor, I really tried. But losing weight, changing everything about my life, it's harder than people think, especially when you're alone." "You're not alone anymore," Taylor said immediately. Maya laughed sadly. "I'm alone in 6 months, that was the deal. When Eric told me about the bet, I thought—" She paused, wiping her eyes. "I thought maybe for 6 months I could pretend. I could pretend someone cared about me, that I mattered to someone beyond my family. I could experience what it felt like to be married, even if it was fake. I know it's pathetic, but I just wanted to feel loved, even if it wasn't real." Taylor felt tears burning in his own eyes. "Maya, you can't think like that. You have so much time left. We can fix this. We? Maya pulled her hand away finally. "There is no we, Taylor. There's 3 more months of a contract, and then we both go back to our real lives. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be." "It's already complicated," Taylor said desperately. "Maya, I care about you. These past 3 months, you've changed something in me. I don't want to walk away in 3 months. I want to help you. I want to be here for you." "You don't mean that," Maya whispered, but Taylor could hear the hope underneath the doubt. "I do," he insisted. "Let me prove it to you. Let me help you fight this." Maya looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Whatever she saw there made fresh tears spill down her cheeks. "Okay," she said finally, so softly he almost didn't hear it. "Okay." Taylor leaned forward and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. "We're going to get through this. Together." For the first time since their marriage began, Maya smiled at him with genuine warmth. Together. Taylor King had faced many challenges in his life, but none had ever felt as important as this one. As he sat beside Maya's hospital bed, holding her hand through the night, he realized that for the first time in his life, he was fighting for something that mattered more than money or pride or winning a bet. He was fighting for Maya, and he would not lose. The next morning, Dr. Lee returned with a comprehensive treatment plan. Weight loss through diet and exercise, continued medication, regular monitoring, and lifestyle changes. It would be difficult, she warned, but it was Maya's best chance at a long, healthy life. "We'll do whatever it takes," Taylor said firmly, before Maya could respond. Dr. Lee smiled. "That's exactly the support she needs. Mr. King, your involvement in this process will be crucial. Studies show that patients with strong support systems have much higher success rates." After Dr. Lee left, Taylor turned to Maya. "We start today. No arguments." "Taylor, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do," he interrupted. "Maya, I'm not doing this because of some contract or obligation. I'm doing this because I care about you, because somewhere in the last 3 months you became the most important person in my life. And I'll be damned if I lose you now." Maya's eyes filled with tears again. "What happened to you? Where's the arrogant businessman who married me for a bet?" Taylor smiled sadly. "You happened to me, Maya. You showed me what actually matters. Now let me show you what you mean to me." When they returned to the penthouse 3 days later, Taylor had already transformed the space. The kitchen was stocked with healthy food. He'd hired a nutritionist and a personal trainer. He'd cleared his schedule for the next several weeks, delegating his business responsibilities to trusted executives. "This is too much," Maya protested, looking at all the changes. "It's not enough," Taylor replied. "Maya, I'm going to do this with you. Every step. We're partners now, really and truly." And so began their new life together. Taylor woke up at 5:30 every morning, something he'd never done willingly in his life. He and Maya would dress in workout clothes and go for walks in Central Park. At first, Maya could barely make it around one loop before she was exhausted and hurting. Taylor held her hand, encouraged her, slowed his pace to match hers. "I can't do this," Maya gasped one morning, stopping to catch her breath. "It's too hard." "Yes, you can," Taylor said firmly, taking both her hands in his. "Look at me, Maya. You are the strongest person I know. You've faced everything life has thrown at you with courage and dignity. This is just one more challenge. And this time, you don't have to face it alone." Maya looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Why are you doing this?" "Really?" Taylor cupped her face gently. "Because I love you. I think I've been falling in love with you since the moment you walked into that cafe and called me out on my arrogance. Because you're brilliant and kind and you see people, really see them. Because when I look at you, I see my future. And that future needs you healthy and by my side." "You love me," Maya whispered, as if she couldn't believe the words. "I love you," Taylor confirmed. "Not the woman I thought I was marrying. Not some temporary arrangement. You, Maya, exactly as you are, and I'm going to spend every day proving it to you." They stood there in Central Park as the sun rose over the city, and Maya finally, tentatively, leaned up and kissed him. It was their first real kiss, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Taylor saw hope blooming in Maya's eyes for the first time. The weeks that followed were hard. Maya struggled with the diet changes, with the constant exercise, with the physical and emotional challenges of transforming her life. There were days when she wanted to give up, days when she cried from frustration and pain. But Taylor was there for all of it. He changed his own diet to match hers, even though he didn't need to. He woke up early to exercise with her every single day. When she wanted to quit, he reminded her why she was fighting. When she felt discouraged, he showed her the small victories, the pounds lost, the distance walked, the improvements in her energy and mood. They cooked together in the evenings, experimenting with healthy recipes and laughing at their mistakes. Taylor discovered he actually enjoyed cooking, enjoyed the simple domestic activity of preparing meals with Maya. She taught him how to see joy in ordinary moments, how to value experiences over possessions. 4 months into their marriage, Taylor took Maya to another charity gala. This time, it was different. Maya wore a new dress, one that showed off the 30 pounds she'd lost. But more importantly, she wore confidence. She walked into that ballroom with her head high, Taylor's hand in hers, and she was radiant. People noticed. The same women who had gossiped about her before now tried to compliment her transformation. Taylor watched Maya handle them with grace and dignity, neither accepting their false praise nor stooping to their level. "I'm proud of you," Taylor whispered as they danced together later that evening. "I'm proud of me too," Maya replied with a genuine smile. "But I couldn't have done it without you." "We're a team," Taylor said, pulling her closer. Yeah, Maya agreed, resting her head on his chest. We really are. But their journey wasn't over. As they approached the 6-month mark of their marriage, the anniversary of their contract's end, Maya had another health scare. Taylor came home from a meeting to find Maya collapsed on the bathroom floor, her face pale and her breathing labored. Terror gripped his heart as he called for an ambulance, as he held her and begged her to stay with him, as he followed her to the same hospital where this had all become real months before. Dr. Lee met him in the waiting room, her expression serious. Taylor felt his world tilting, preparing for the worst news. "Mr. King," Dr. Lee began, and Taylor's heart stopped. "I need to talk to you about Maya's condition." "Just tell me," Taylor said, his voice breaking. "Whatever it is, just tell me." Dr. Lee's serious expression suddenly broke into a smile. "She's going to be fine, Mr. King." "Better than fine, actually." Taylor blinked, confused. "What?" "Maya collapsed from exhaustion and low blood sugar, nothing more," Dr. Lee explained. "We ran comprehensive tests. Her blood pressure is significantly improved. Her heart function has increased by nearly 30%. She's lost over 50 pounds, and all her markers are moving in the right direction. Mr. King, whatever you two have been doing, it's working. If she continues on this path, Maya's prognosis is excellent." Taylor felt his legs give out and sank into a chair. "She's going to be okay?" "She's going to be okay," Dr. Lee confirmed. "She needs to continue her current lifestyle, keep working with her medical team, and be careful not to push herself too hard. But yes, she's going to be okay." Taylor dropped his face into his hands and wept. All the fear, all the stress, all the love he'd been carrying for months came pouring out. He cried in that hospital waiting room, not caring who saw, only caring that Maya was going to live. When he was finally allowed to see her, Taylor found Maya awake and apologetic. "I'm sorry I scared you," she said immediately. "I just pushed too hard at the gym today and I forgot to eat enough." Taylor crossed the room and kissed her, cutting off her words. When he pulled back, he was smiling through his tears. "You're going to be okay." Dr. Lee said, "You're going to be okay." Maya's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really," Taylor confirmed. "Your numbers are improving. Your heart is stronger. You're doing it, Maya. You're beating this." Maya started crying too, and Taylor held her as they both processed the news. After months of fear and uncertainty, they finally had hope. "Taylor," Maya said when they'd both calmed down, "our 6 months are up next week." Taylor tensed. He'd been trying not to think about that, about the contract that had brought them together. "I know." "So what happens now?" Maya asked, searching his face. Taylor took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Now you marry me again, for real this time. No bets, no contracts, no expiration date. Just you and me and the rest of our lives." "Are you proposing to me in a hospital room?" Maya asked, laughing through her tears. "I'm proposing to you everywhere, every day, until you say yes," Taylor replied. "Maya Brown, you changed my life. You taught me what actually matters. You showed me that some things can't be bought or won. They can only be earned through dedication and love. And I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Will you marry me? Really marry me?" Maya was crying openly now. "Yes, yes, Taylor, I'll marry me, really marry you." Taylor leaned in and kissed her again, this kiss full of promise and future and love that had been earned through hardship and transformation. 6 months after their business arrangement wedding, they had a real ceremony. It was small and intimate, held in the garden of the community center where Maya worked. Her family was there, his family was there, and Eric stood as Taylor's best man, admitting with good humor that he'd lost the bet, but gained the satisfaction of seeing his friend become a better man. Maya wore a beautiful white dress, and Taylor couldn't take his eyes off her. Not because of how much weight she'd lost, but because of the joy radiating from her, the health and happiness that glowed from within. "I love you," Taylor whispered as they stood at the altar. "I love you too," Maya replied. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the marriage, the whole crowd laughed, because everyone there knew this was the most right thing in the world. Taylor King had made a bet 6 months earlier, thinking he would win by controlling and manipulating a situation. Instead, he'd lost the bet and won everything that mattered. He'd found love, found purpose, found a partner who challenged him to be better. As he and Maya shared their first dance as a married couple, really married this time, Taylor thought about the arrogant man he'd been just months before. That man would never have understood this joy, this contentment, this deep and abiding love. "What are you thinking about?" Maya asked, her head resting on his chest as they swayed to the music. "I'm thinking about how I made the best bet of my life," Taylor replied, "even if I didn't know it at the time." Maya laughed. "You lost that bet, remember?" "No," Taylor said, pulling back to look into her eyes. "I won. I won you. I won this life. I won everything that actually matters." "We both won," Maya corrected softly. "We both won," Taylor agreed. And as they continued dancing, surrounded by people who loved them, Taylor King knew that for the first time in his life, he had truly won at something that mattered, not through manipulation or money or arrogance, but through love, commitment, and the willingness to change. Maya's health continued to improve over the following months. She lost more weight, her heart grew stronger, and her doctors were amazed at her transformation. But more importantly, she was happy. She and Taylor built a life together based on mutual respect, genuine affection, and shared values. Taylor changed too. He became more involved in charity work, particularly health initiatives. He and Maya started a foundation dedicated to helping people access the resources they needed for health transformations, providing free nutritionists, trainers, and medical care to those who couldn't afford it. 5 years after their bet-turned-real marriage, Taylor and Maya welcomed their first child, a healthy baby girl they named Grace, after the doctor who had helped save Maya's life. Taylor held his daughter in his arms and looked at his wife, healthy and glowing and more beautiful than ever, and felt overwhelming gratitude. "Who would have thought," Maya said softly, watching him with their baby, "that a stupid bet would lead to all this?" "It was the best bet I ever made," Taylor replied. "You lost that bet, remember?" Maya teased. "I lost $5 million, Taylor corrected, smiling down at baby Grace's tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb. "But I gained everything else." Maya rested her head on his shoulder. "Eric still brings it up at every family gathering. He earned that right. He saw something in both of us that we couldn't see ourselves." The baby yawned, and Taylor felt his heart swell. This was his life now. Not the empty penthouse, but this warm moment with his wife and child. "Do you ever think about that first day at the cafe?" Taylor asked, "when you sat down and told me you knew everything?" "Every day," Maya admitted. "I was so scared. I actually agreed to marry a stranger because I thought I was dying and wanted to feel loved, even if it was fake." "It wasn't fake," Taylor said firmly. "Maybe it started that way. But it stopped being fake the moment I actually saw you." "When did it become real for you?" Taylor considered carefully. "The gala. When those women were talking about you and I felt something break inside me. I realized I couldn't stand the thought of anyone hurting you. You were mine to cherish." "For me, it was in the hospital. When I woke up and you were there, looking terrified, I'd spent 8 months convinced nobody would care if I died. But you cared." Grace made a small sound and Taylor gently rocked her. "I wish I could go back and tell that arrogant idiot who accepted Eric's bet what he was really signing up for." "What would you tell him?" "That he's about to meet the woman who will destroy his entire worldview. That she'll make him want to be better because she deserves the best version of him." "That's very poetic for a ruthless businessman," Maya teased. "Former ruthless businessman. That man doesn't exist anymore. You killed him." "Good. He needed to die." They stood in comfortable silence. Outside, New York City continued its endless rhythm. "Taylor, I need to tell you something." Maya's voice turned serious. His heart skipped. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" "I'm healthy. Better than healthy. I saw Dr. Lee last week. My heart function is completely normal. All my markers are perfect. She said if she didn't know my history, she'd never guess I'd had health problems. Based on my current trajectory, there's no reason I shouldn't live a completely normal, full lifespan." Taylor felt tears prickling his eyes. He carefully transferred Grace to her bassinet and pulled Maya into his arms. "You did it. You beat it. We did it. I never could have done this alone." They held each other, processing what they'd overcome together. 5 years ago, Maya had been given a grim prognosis. 5 years ago, Taylor had measured success in dollars. Now they were healthy, whole, and deeply in love. "I have something to confess, Tegele," Taylor said. "I paid Eric back. The 5 million from the bet, with interest." Maya's eyes widened. "When? Why?" "About 3 years ago, after Grace was born. I couldn't stand that our marriage started as a financial transaction. I paid him back every penny plus 20%. He donated it to the foundation we started and matched it dollar for dollar." Maya laughed through her tears. "That sounds like Eric, secretly a romantic. He's coming over tomorrow. Wants to talk about something." The next day, Eric arrived with uncharacteristic nervousness. "Thanks for seeing me," he said as they settled in the living room. "Your family, Eric," Maya said warmly. "You're always welcome." Eric took a sip of coffee, then set it down carefully. "I need to talk about the bet. The truth about why I really made it." Taylor and Maya exchanged glances. "I thought you made it because you wanted to challenge Taylor," Maya said. "That's what I let everyone believe. But the truth is, I made it because I was worried about Taylor. I watched my best friend become someone I didn't recognize, someone who collected women like trophies and was absolutely miserable. I made the bet to wake you up." Taylor sat back, stunned. "You made the bet to help me. But why Maya specifically?" Taylor asked. Eric's expression grew uncomfortable. "Maya, we met about a year before the bet, at a literacy program fundraiser. We talked for 5 minutes, but that conversation stayed with me. You mentioned dealing with health issues. A few months later, I ran into your mother at a medical center. She told me about your diagnosis, about how you were struggling alone. She was terrified of losing you." Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "My mother knew. She knew I was going to introduce you to Taylor. She was desperate. She saw you slowly giving up and wanted you to have a reason to keep fighting." Taylor felt anger stirring. "So this was all manipulation?" "Yes," Eric admitted. "And I'm not sorry. I gambled that if I threw you two together, something might spark. I was right." "But what if you'd been wrong?" Maya demanded. "I had a backup plan. If Taylor treated you badly, I would have ended it and paid for your medical treatment myself. I was watching, always. But from the very first meeting, I saw something change in Taylor's eyes." Taylor walked to the window. "You played God with our lives, Eric." "I did. And I'd do it again. Look at your life now compared to 5 years ago. Tell me honestly that you wish I hadn't made that bet." Taylor couldn't deny the truth. "I don't wish that." "But you should have told us. When? There was never a right time, and I was afraid you'd hate me." "Why tell us now?" Maya asked. Eric's expression softened. "Because I met someone. Rachel, she's a teacher. She's kind and real and calls me out on my bullshit. For the first time, I'm terrified because I actually care. I want to know how you stopped being afraid of being vulnerable." Maya walked over to Eric. "What you did was manipulative and dishonest, and it also might have saved my life. I'm angry and grateful and confused, but I understand why you did it." "The truth is always better than manipulation," Taylor said. "If you care about Rachel, tell her the truth. Don't try to control the situation, just be honest. That's terrifying." "Love is terrifying," Maya agreed. "It's also worth it." "Even when that person finds you through a manipulative bet?" Eric asked. "Even then," Taylor confirmed, "but no more secrets. If you're in our lives, in Grace's life, you need to promise us honesty." "I promise, and I'm sorry. Stay for dinner. Tell us about Rachel. Let's start fresh with honesty." Later that evening, after Eric left and Grace was asleep, Taylor and Maya sat on their balcony looking at the city lights. "Are you angry?" Maya asked. "About what Eric did?" I am, but I'm also grateful. If he hadn't made that bet, I never would have met you. I'd still be that empty, arrogant person. And I might not be here at all. I was giving up, Taylor. We saved each other. We did, and now maybe we can help Eric save himself." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined. Grace made a small sound through the monitor before settling back to sleep. "You know what I realized today?" Taylor said. "I don't care how we started anymore. What we have now is real. What we've built together is real. The rest is just history." Maya squeezed his hand. "That's very wise for a former arrogant billionaire. I learned from the best." They stayed on the balcony talking about everything and nothing, making plans and dreaming about years to come. When they finally went inside, Taylor paused at Grace's nursery door, watching his daughter sleep. 5 years ago, he had accepted a bet, thinking it was just another game to win. It hadn't been a game, it had been fate, disguised as manipulation. He had bet on controlling a situation and lost control of everything. He had bet on maintaining his arrogance and found humility. He had bet on winning money and lost his heart completely. And in losing, he had won everything that actually mattered. Maya appeared beside him, slipping her arm around his waist. Together they watched their daughter breathe. "No regrets?" Maya whispered. "Not a single one." And he meant it. Every manipulated moment, every painful revelation, every health scare, every transformation, he would do it all again if it meant ending up here. The bet had changed everything. Taylor King, the man who once thought he could win at anything, had finally learned the most important lesson. Sometimes the best victories come from surrendering completely. He followed Maya to bed, ready to wake up tomorrow and continue building the life they'd fought to create. A life built on truth, on love, on transformation, a life that had started with a bet, but had become so much more, everything that actually mattered. So here's my question for you. Would you accept a bet like this if it meant finding true love? Or was Eric wrong to manipulate their lives, even if it ended perfectly? Drop surrender in the comments if you believe sometimes losing is the biggest win of all. And before you go, if this story made you feel something, hit that like button. It helps us bring you more emotional stories like this. Not subscribed yet? What are you waiting for? Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss our next heart-touching story. Finally, share this with someone who needs to hear that real transformation is possible. Tag that friend who always tries to control everything. Maybe they need to learn Taylor's lesson about surrendering to love.